It's working? Okay, great. Hi everyone, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for coming out for poetry, whether you're here at the Betsy Hotel or you're online or you're tuning in a month from now if you're in the future. Thank you for being here. My name is Catherine Esposito Prescott. I'm one of the co-founders of Swim and the editor-in-chief of Swim Every Day. And we're here at the Betsy Hotel for our penultimate reading of this season. And we're so excited tonight to welcome our almost local writer, Carey, and our visiting writer, Sebree. They were a surprise reading, and I say surprise in the very best of ways. We have such a special partnership with the Betsy, and every now and again, they will reach out and say, hey, listen, we have this magnificent, beautiful, incredibly talented writer coming to Miami. Can we do something special for her? And our answer is always yes, 100% yes. So we are very grateful for you both for being here tonight and for the Betsy for being just a hotel that's unlike any other hotel we have ever known, we have ever seen, supporting the arts emphatically, and especially the literary arts. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So without further ado, you don't need to hear any more from me. Let's introduce the poets, and they will come up one right after the other. So get comfortable, get a drink, get that kombucha, get that tea, get that wine, and let's dive into some poetry. So our readers tonight are our almost local writer, our Florida writer with local roots, let's say, is Carey. Sarah is a graduate of the Florida State University Creative Writing Program. Her work has appeared recently or is forthcoming in 5 Points, Swim Every Day, Split Rock Review, Atlanta Review, Grist, and elsewhere. Her book reviews have recently appeared or are pending in Salamander, Eco-Theo Review, Tinderbox Poetry Review, and the Los Angeles Review. Sarah's poems have been nominated for the Pushcart Prize and the Horizon Anthology. She is the author of 2 poetry chapbooks, The Heart Contracts and Accommodations, winner of the Concrete Wolf Poetry Series Chapbook Award. And our visiting writer is Sebree. Chet'la is the author of Field Study, winner of the 2020 James Laughlin Award from the Academy of American Poets. She is also the author of Mistress, selected by Kathy Park Hong as the winner of the 2018 New Issues Poetry Prize and nominated for an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literary Work Poetry in 2020. Most recently, her poem, And the Record Repeats, appeared in Dr. Ibram X. Kendi and Dr. Keisha N. Blaine's 400 Souls, A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019. Chet'la has received fellowships from the Delaware Division of the Arts, Hedgebrook, the Hermitage Artist Retreat, McDowell, the Robert H. Smith International Center for Jefferson Studies, the Stadler Center for Poetry, the Vermont Studio Center, and Yaddo. Chet'la's poetry and prose have appeared in Kenyon Review, Pleiades, Wildness, Guernica, Poetry International, and The Account, as well as other journals and anthologies. She is an assistant professor of English and the director for the Stadler Center for Poetry and Literary Arts at Bucknell University. Let's please give a super warm, super sunny Miami welcome to these fabulous female poets.
Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Sarah. And first I want to thank Jen and Catherine and Swim and the Betsy for all they do for women writers and women identifying writers, and just for this wonderful reading series, which I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of and to be here this evening to share some of my work with you all. As Kat said, I'm not exactly local, but I have a strong emotional connection to Miami because my mother grew up here went to high school here, married my father here. And while I've been back a few times since I was a kid visiting my grandparents, it hasn't been many, and mostly associated with work. So I'm just thrilled to be here now. Sadly, my mom passed away a couple of months ago, but that just means it's especially significant to be able to make this trip here and to be here. And thank you all for listening. Although I write about a lot of different things, grief and loss are recurring themes in my work. And having lost both of my parents in the last 5 years, I find that my parents and the themes of grief and loss surface in many of my poems, especially my recent ones. Tonight I'm going to start with a few poems from my new manuscript, The Grief Committee, which I've just started circulating with fingers crossed. And the first poem I'm going to read is called Flyover, and it's a poem that I wrote watching my mom decline with Alzheimer's disease over the last year and a half, really, and contemplating what she would think if she were looking at Miami now and comparing it to the Miami that she grew up in. It's kind of a Miami poem. Is there a little static? I'm sorry. A little closer to me. That's better. I'm sorry, that's my fault.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this poem is called Flyover. Flyover. It's not the same Miami, I would tell you, if you could know what I mean. 360 miles, at least 50 years since your last trip home. 75 since your wedding to my father, never again driven to visit. Like first sunlight flashes hope, then fades, as a marriage you barely remember. On approach, a guitar-shaped hotel, either marble or neon monstrosity, shoots towards sky. I imagine its lit strings at night, your eyes growing wide at the next door casino, run by the Seminole, the games, the many ways we gamble. I would show you, if you could know what I mean, the flat canal on my right, one of many, as ubiquitous now as in your childhood, all that talk of drainage from the swamplands, laments of development, watershed of tears. Then to my left, a sign we have entered the reservation we never made with the future. But tell that to the egret high-stepping in marsh, seeking any edible remnant, what's left of your Everglades. This next poem is a very new poem that was actually written in the aftermath of my mom's death. And as I was thinking about the passage of time being no respecter of grief or loss, operating by its own rules, and as well I was thinking of the rituals that we create to keep alive the people that we've lost. This poem is called The Bell. The bell. And just like that, it's summer. All the deciduous trees stop shedding before we even notice the driveway empty in our comings and goings, or understood we'd not been blowing for weeks. The robin's true song awakens at dawn, his carol as clear as the jangle of red jingle bell at the bottom of the beaded string my mother wore at Christmas year after year, now ringing the neck of the rearview mirror in my SUV, where each morning I start the engine and roar to work, but not before I remember her sparkling, prior to the last season's pallor. I shake the body of tiny beads as if her bones could tintinnabulate, until the trembling stills in my palm between the heart and lifelines, and the bell rests, finally subdued. I mentioned, or Kat mentioned, or we both mentioned that I live in Gainesville. Lots of trees in Gainesville. Lots of interesting wildlife and birds in Gainesville too that you can still see flying around. And in my neighborhood, I am so lucky to see pileated woodpeckers flying around fairly frequently, and I love pileated woodpeckers. I just think they're the most beautiful birds. And I wrote this poem. It's a persona poem, meaning in the voice of a pileated woodpecker, a few years back. Swim published this poem, and so I'm going to read it next, but I do want to mention you'll hear a name that you may or may not be familiar with. Altizer. Thomas Altizer was a progressive, controversial theologian who coined the term God is dead in the 1960s. I would say Thomas Altizer was a misunderstood theologian, but he figures into this poem, so I felt like I should give a little context there. A pileated woodpecker shares where to find God. I live for what the dead give. Hidden by leaf screens and branches, I pillage rotting wood. My tribe fought long for salvation after the forest razing dug into ragged swamp stumps, felled trunks, a miracle of wholeness from fragments, a feast of insects who thrive on decay. What's left when I leave is for others to say. Should you see my black wings, my red head knocking wood for nourishment, you might ask if I believe God is dead, as Altizer said, believing God lived and died in Christ, that the church lied about becoming a body. But what Altizer said was not what most thought he meant, which was, in death, life, a spirit indwelling to drill the dying down. Incarnate carnage, God's passion. If you ask me, I'm proof he was right. If you listen to my rat-a-tat melody, echoing my drumming beak, you may hear an answered prayer of oneness in desire's shrill tattoo and the thrumming of your own wild heart. You're welcome. I'm a person who has always valued consistency and roots. I've lived in Florida nearly all my life. I've been in Gainesville for 31 years. I've held the same job for 31 years, almost 32 years. I've been married for 25 plus years. I'm just not a big risk taker. And I know that about myself. And this next poem is a kind of a meditation or interrogation even of that mindset, that stability mindset, how you can reach a point where you realize you've chosen what's comfortable and easy over other forms of growth and kind of what that means. This poem is called You Can Stay in a Place Too Long. It was published last year by a journal called Rust and Moth. You can stay in a place too long. Even our homes tire of us. The once bold area rugs, red madder root patterns bleeding from the light they lay in, year after year, tread upon and admired in equal measure. Dirt ground into tile seals secrets like kisses, like passion flowers in the overgrown yard we debrided like a wound, suturing to heal a landscape when our hands flew in and out of pots, when no heat could make us stop, till we just gave up. Frayed edges fill familiar rooms. In each corner, a context begs forgiveness, justifies the ways we dug into our digs before the walls closed in and off like power flipped. We weren't at fault for wanting domiciles in which to hide, to live, make work our life, make love to last forever. We were blameless, believing occupations could belie transience. We were blips. We know this now. 20 years ago, I took my first and only trip to Niagara Falls. And I was just overwhelmed by how beautiful it was. It was a powerful experience, and I was also intrigued by learning how many people have lost their lives there. And I started a poem back then, almost 20 years ago, and I never finished it, but I never forgot about it. And this last year I pulled it out, started working on it some more, and I'm pleased to say it was recently accepted by a journal called Split Rock Review. I'm sorry if I'm creating this stuff. The attraction to Niagara. Some of them envied the great Farini, walking the tightrope, outdoing Blondin with somersaults, headstands, hanging by toes. Because to scale or jump the short wire fence to float to the fall's edge means brinkmanship is close, or hope at least to lead the news. Imagine all those children terrorized, clutching their parents who look away. Didn't have to end this way, they say, shaking their heads. While stuck in the retina, the killer view of the gorge marks another spectacular denouement, a life surrender to nature or a final attempt at ease. I remember the rush to judgment, my eyes tracing the railing, no guards on duty to protect this poor excuse of a border, settled wildness, life, death. But whose job is it to keep another from themselves? Are we not here for the lore? 2 to 3 a month go over, the guide says, adding that against all odds, a few of them have lived. In 2019, the editors of Swim sponsored a contest called Poetry for Purses in honor of Kate Spade, who had sadly taken her own life the previous year. And the proceeds from this contest that I read about with interest would go to suicide prevention causes. And I thought, how neat. Poetry for Purses. I have to write something for this contest. So I wrote it and I sent it in, and I'm very grateful to the editors at Swim for awarding this poem first honorable mention in the Poetry Purses for Poetry competition. And so I'm going to read that. It's called My Purse is a Mother is My Birthright. I give her the feminine gender, this pride on my sleeve, reflecting sensibility and taste. Inside the gap of my scapula, she hangs, curved like a womb, seam strap attaching her whole body, hip to shoulder to mine, a line. Taut at times, as when I press my hand to the base of her sewn buckles, feel my mother's fingers still at the singer, hem mending after fold and chalk. Other times she bends into my sideways muscles, as when I sit to listen as my mother shares her latest skin flare-up, asks the specialist to work her in, wonders if advancing years will cause one's largest organ to grow thinner, if that's just what physicians say to help old women make peace with pain. Or when she leans against me for a moment, lets me feel her weight. Bearing all I hold dear zipped, she models merits of restraint, yet elides a sigh from deep within her secret walls when I reach down across inside her compartments to claim my tube of lip gloss, lost key rings, forgotten change, a pair of shades, a buried pen gripped glistens. I emerge with all my broken bits to see that everything we carry, mold ourselves to, wears, fades away. I think I don't deserve her, but I do. like to read a couple poems from Accommodations, which is my most recent chapbook. And this first poem from Accommodations will be my third swim published poem that I'm reading tonight. But I chose it because I love these poems, and I also felt like this was a good venue to maybe read them at. And give me just a second here, I'll find my... All of us who live in Florida understand hurricanes. Hurricanes are in our DNA. We hear about them, we prepare for them, we get anxious worrying about them, we weather them, we clean up after them. And when I wrote this poem I'm about to read, Hurricane Irma had come through Florida, and it actually hit Florida a couple times, and it was making its way up to Gainesville, which is not that odd, a little odd. We're inland, so we don't get hit all that much, but sometimes we do. So there was all this angst in preparing for this hurricane, and it just so happened that it hit maybe 5 or 6 months after my father had passed away. So I was kind of raw with emotions relating to that, and this poem emerged, and it was everything kind of all combined, and it's called Before Landfall. Mark it. There it is. In the latest projection, Irma fingers the spine of Florida's supine peninsula. We track her path northwest on weather apps from our safe room where we lie on sleeping bags. Imagine protection looks like this. Doors, windows, shut tight, radio, flashlight. Disaster plans at hand. Minutes away, the winds pick up. The first rain bands deluge our roof. Once again, we wait for havoc. Crashing trees, transformer arcs. For the house to tremble as freight train sounds roar through. As if to make up for lost time, fast forwarding to an unknown end. As the fluids left my father's body, I watched him track my tears, a salt river smelling of seaweed and grief. His good eye would see me through just one more storm, the mopping up I'd do, so sure we'd not be swamped again. When I was tiny as a country, seen from light years away, he held me high above the swirling sea that was the beginning and the end of everything. I've got time. I've got just a couple more I'd like to read. And this poem, also from Accommodations, I was also fairly newly grieving the loss of my father and meditating again on how time is no respecter of grief or loss or anything, and not only that, I mean, we just have to keep on moving, and we have to march through life and keep our appointments. And so I go to a stylist, I go to a hair person, she's my hair person, and I can't miss my appointment. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. But I wrote this, I remember keeping the appointment at a very, very raw time, and that experience wound up in a poem. It's called Exploring Roots in the Hair Salon. Exploring roots in the hair salon. My father's dead 1 year today, but I am keeping my appointments. Recapping the reasons I can't go to gray or ash just yet. Caped, colored, and cut. I remember when my stylist told me there'd be a time to grow out my roots, allowing thick to thrive, to throb untamed, or at least uncultivated. Giving a name to this phase, wild hair. As if it might be better then than now to abandon social mores. As if I'd comb through grief more easily, controlled, avoiding unwanted attention. Lowlights, I tell her. Let's go with the bob that worked for both of us most years. It feels like home to me. My father teased, my sisters and I made him gray, but he lost his hair in the end. I say, keep me in the club of the well-coiffed, slightly spray with all that body someone could bury their face in. This last poem I'd like to close with is a newer poem, and it's shorter than most poems I write. And it has to do with how we often worry about things that never come to pass, as if enough things don't happen that we do have to worry about. We spend a lot of energy worrying about things that never happen. And it also has to do, though, with the things that we hold on to after and despite our losses, and how we learn to make peace with the things that we'll never know or understand, and how the beauty in the world around us and being better observers of that beauty, better listeners to that beauty, can guide and sustain us and even surprise us with joy. The wolf never came to the door, though we imagined it howling. Somehow the lights stayed on. The Chuck Will's widow's whistle vanished from summer nights, yet still we listen at dusk and dawn for the owl's duet. Hoot, cackle, and caw. Wake to imprinted cardinal, mourning dove, but also bird song we can't name, mysterious as a universe we'll never fathom, having relinquished the ghost of knowing to constellations we'll never see, to voices dreamed but never heard, or heard no more. Yet to that haunting cry, airglow, the occasional river of stars. Thank you so much.
Sure. I'm wondering if I can forgo the mic.
I think so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you project. You're good.
All right. Thank you everyone for being here, both in person and online, and thank you so much, Swim, for putting this together. I would also like to say, if anybody is working on a second book that comes out in 2023, please apply the James Laughlin Award by the Academy of American Poets. It's why I'm here. I've been soaking up the sun here in Miami. It is gorgeous. I came from the DC area, and it was snowing a little on Sunday when I left. But so thank you so much for, it was just flurries, but it just felt offensive. But thank you so much for everyone that's here in this room and online, and everyone who made this possible. I know, right? Snowing.
Miami girls are like,
So I'm going to read from both of my collections, just a little bit from each. My first collection is called Mistress, and it features two voices. One of the enslaved woman, Sally Hemings, my imagined version of her, and the other is a contemporary speaker who shares my name. And I'll be reading some of the poems from the contemporary speaker, because what I like to say when people ask me, is the Chet'la and Mistress you? Is field study you? I like to say that they are not. Neither of them are me. They're the same speaker though. And so in Mistress, I feel like she was not ready to take up quite as much space as she takes up in field study. So I'll toggle back and forth. But both of the books are really about Black women's experiences in so many ways. The first about how between Sally Hemings and the contemporary speaker Chet'la, not a lot has changed in the way that we talk about and treat Black women in over 200 years. And in the second book, Chet'la is trying to figure out how she found herself in one particular relationship with a white man and how she's navigating her way through that. So, but the first poem I'll read is from the OG Black woman, Eve. And the title means in the very beginning. So, Ab Ovo, or Eve's daughter. Eve, bite taken, travels her center line. Rosalinda, flowering her pallor. She is not ashamed of her nakedness. This she will not pass on when she's punished for knowing the holler hidden in her. We know nothing of her daughter, except her name means beautiful blue, that she knew two brothers before the flood. I chose these poems today while I was on the beach, so a lot of them have water in them. So The second poem I'll read, the title means in the middle of things. And it is how epics traditionally start. So, in medias res. I turned 24 on the back of your motorcycle. After I smoked pot with your mom. After your dad took a bat to the dog. After we drove the North Cascades Highway, snow gripping the shoulder where we slept and woke together. No one told me that this would be our climax, that we weren't at the beginning. Every part of the day, a surprise someone ruined. Field Study is actually a book-length work, and so I'll read one section from near the end and then another section from earlier. Field Study. The first time you used the word for love, you arrived at my door at dawn, scalp caked in your own blood. Said it wasn't the only time you'd come to me like this. Told me I didn't have to feel the same way with a kiss. Quote, when people show you who they are, believe them, Maya Angelou. I waited until the next blue hue dawn to use my own articulation of love. It begins with chaos. Eros follows. You drew out baby, so it became portmanteau, insect preceded by body of water. The term would become a pacifier for 6 a.m. phone calls. Baby, I'm fine. Baby, I'm hurt. Baby, I want to come home. After one, I took photos of your battered body for a police report. Scalp to occipital bone, rib, cage, scapula, boysenberry blossoms all over your torso. The first rule about Fight Club. Did I journal while we were together? I can't remember. I was ensnared in the hive of our love. Nature taught me to be tantalized by that which I can't understand, the complicated thatch of a sturdy bird's nest, the way water can carve a canyon, that which cannot be tamed. Cartographer, you are the mountains from which you come, I, the ocean. I know, like me, you were desperate to map yourself in someone, something. The second rule about Fight Club. Once, you subluxed my rib, told me to relax as you pushed it back in. We were playing Pin the Shoulders, which would join the slap bet and pillow play in games that no longer took place. You were like wind-blown sand, silt still in my crevices. I am corkscrew wrenched. Even though you're gone, I still feel the hollow you left. Once, when you were memory free, you mushed my face while calling me baby. Against my chest, you apologized, you wept. Some languages have many words for snow, but what's the word for loving each other despite ourselves? What is the word for weeping when I knew it was the last time I'd know your body, your canvas mapped in tattoos and scars? The tenderest game we played, the caress of each other's anatomy with words that began with B. In the view of a mountain you climbed, I cried at the sight of a sunbathing lady and her baby. Belly. Once, I craved a cookie, savored the taste until it was mushed mash and spit, baby birded the muck into your mouth, and you swallowed it. Beard. You said you grew one when you weren't feeling quite like yourself, told me as I scratched your scruff. You wore one the entire second year of us. Back. I used to trace the vertebrae of your shortened spine, injury to your back deeper than you'd ever let me. There are no words for the wick worn thin between us. Here I am, the closest. Brows. Before the blue-hued morn after that blood-dried night, I knew how I felt, knew from the moment on the porch where I listened to you play Make You Feel My Love in an early June rainstorm. You use the edge of your nail to scratch the brown bend above your hazels. This before our first kiss. Breast. A buoyant body caught in the undertow gets pulled into the swell. The waves continue to come, ceaselessly. Bare. We wanted to have a family big enough to play the feud. We polled 100 people and asked them how they felt about their exes. Answer, grateful for the time we had together. Answer, I wish we'd only been friends. Number one answer, I wish I'd never met them. I still don't regret we met. It begins and it begins and begins. It begins with you, with me. It begins with me growing up a black girl in a predominantly white world in the 90s. Tsunamis recede, leaving debris, crumpled car, slanted echo of a housing structure, from pressure under which only sea monsters can exist, fangtooth, angler, vampire squid. But wait, I thought I was the ocean. Grand romantic gestures. It's you holding the cup in which I pee on Valentine's Day in our 20s. It's me cutting up apples to protect our fake front teeth. It's me driving circles to find you blacked out in New York, Seattle, DC. It's you forgetting that time I punched you on New Year's Eve. It's not like anything we saw in the movies. It surprises being out of the question. It's me wanting children and not wanting yours. It's never telling you about the night I spent on the bathroom floor. Field study. In my adult life, I've loved two men, one black, one white. For most of my 20s, they both remained in orbit. You are one of them. You have to be twice, my mother said. You have to be twice, Papa Pope said on Scandal, bestowing the same adage. If I'd had a baby at 23, I would have told it the same thing. To forget a wound and scratch it issues a special kind of pain. The pain of the wound and the pain of having to acknowledge it's no longer forgotten. The second sometimes hurts more than the first. It's easier to move forward knowing that something, anything, if not the river, will stay the same, like a looped song, though only in the digital age. A scratch in the rimmed memory of a record will render a new permanent forever. Sometimes I remember this when I hold my nephew's face to kiss, when my niece bares all her teeth in the midst of giggling. Sometimes I can't remember if it's gravel or graphite lodged in my palm, but I know I was wounded, forever altered. I don't know where the rupture began. I don't think it's ironic that hole has a hole in it. It's hard for me to admit that for me, I think you stole something. What is the distance between dream and nightmare, between there and terror, an imperceptible fissure in a tank? The new forever, the two men I loved are both fathers to daughter and son. Me, mother to no one. Me, mother to dead ovum. Some nights, waves howl at a hidden moon, the sky a cloak of clouds, and heat lightning lighting the ominous. Some nights, mosquitoes feast on me, leaving welts on my newly sunned skin. Tonight, I'm the kind of ripe where I realize you're at my fingertips, the ones that traced sun-raw tan lines, wound coils in your thicket. Perhaps it's because tonight I'm ovulating. Is the Colosseum beautiful because it's destroyed or because it's still standing? For what was my body a vessel? For what will it be? The next poem I'll read is about a mountain range in Italy, and the face of one of the mountains at sunset becomes bright red. It looks like the whole mountain has turned red. It's called Rosengarten, and I'll mention that in the poem. Sunset in Le Dolomiti. Crisp air burns my lungs. My body clangs into others. I don't think of those who've passed on these paths, appreciating the crunch of gray pebble inclines, masticating patches of summer frost and grass beneath my feet until they slip out from under me. Landing heavy in the belly of Val di Fassa, my body burdens the snow. 4,000 miles from home, I am frozen in Rosengarten's red glow, remembering the way my blood pulled ribbons in the toilet, the clots circling the bowl, the soft towel against my hemorrhaging, the ease with which everything fails. The next poem I'll read, the epigraph, is from Sarah Eskew, and it reads, I am one word too many, a bruise factory, unapologetic for the noun of my body. God complex. But here I am apologizing. I am not wife, not mother, and this upsets the manicurist who reads my finger ridges like tree rings. Eyebrows? She asks, caterpillars inching toward my center line. I let her believe she's fixing me, layer of lacquer to make me bauble, because I am not enough, because I am not someone to someone, and need to be a cat's catch. Behind a curtain, wizard making me worthy, she trims my crabgrass, coats my lip in warm wax. Eyes closed, I know this is her church, body blessed by holy wax strip. Raw skin reminding me I've already been saved. I'll read just 2 more poems. I'm never good at timing, but I think that's about right. Okay, I'll read 3 more poems then. This next one is an Ars Poetica, and I will be impressed if anyone in here or anyone online can also do this with their arm and body. But I feel free to follow the instructions that come in this poem. So, an elaborate non-yoga pose in which you realize you are not made for this world. An Ars Poetica. Lift your left arm beside your ear, straight and tall, not forward-leaning like Lady Liberty's. Touch that hand to that shoulder and crook arm behind head, elbow in line with spine. Release hand and trace jawline, down and around your chin until you reach your left ear. Your body might not do this, but mine can. Understand? My shoulder will fold into itself, the pursed lips of a decorative napkin. You see, I've learned it takes practice to be a master of something painful, satisfying, seemingly useless. First, understand, you must be broken. I've only read that poem once in which people actually attempted to do what I was saying, and people were like, what are you talking about? That's your arm, no one's arm does it. I was like, mine does. And I showed a group of high school students once, and they were like, oh my God, is your arm broken? I was like, it's not, but it looks like it, right? This next poem I'll read has an epigraph from T.S. Eliot, which reads, these fragments I have shored against my ruin. Becoming shoal. And for those of you who don't know what a shoal is, because I didn't before writing this poem, it's a sandbar that's still under the water. Becoming shoal. Every man I've ever loved has false teeth and abandoned children. I wanted you to see me differently, which isn't fair. My insides are rotted, and I'm proud I don't breed gnats just because water's stagnant. You found all the Easter eggs I didn't know were broken. After all those years in that boiled state, they knew as much about being eggs as we knew about being evangelical. So I don't know why I sent you to save them. Every man I've ever loved is a liar. that the right line? Yes. Every man I've ever loved was a liar. I knew they were lying to themselves before they knew they were. Before they were willing to admit they were a wasteland in which one can neither stand nor lie nor sit. Every man I've ever loved is a lost son, so don't worry, you aren't missing anything. My world has stopped turning. Will you return it? Me, a dollhouse built from a kit, abandoned in a dead woman's closet. It's okay. It's just your fault I'm exploded granule, trying to regenerate into something meaningful. Shoal to sandbar to island. I actually will read 2 more poems, one just in honor of having traveled here, and I hear that some of you have traveled a lot this week, AWP and all. The book is called Mistress, and I look at the word mistress outside of its definition as extramarital partner to say how the word is more complicated than the narrative we usually subscribe to it, as is Sally Hemings's history is far more complicated than what we usually narrow her narrative to. And so there's a series of poems in here with the title Mistress in them, and so I'll read 2 Mistress poems. One is a master of a trade, so this one is Mistress of Hypermobility. Stuff me in a suitcase and take me anywhere. The sky is the vehicle I prefer, but you know I love the water. From the sulfur stink of Rotorua hot springs to the frightening blue of the Tosua. Move me from metropolis to small town places where people know they know my face, but no one can pronounce my name. I speak a mesh of lingue romantique anywhere someone will try to understand me. As long as I can admit, I'm always moments away from falling between continents. That I'm fearful of the ways I wear my hair, my Philadelphia accent. Again, thank you everyone for this evening, for being here, and it was so lovely to read with you, Sarah. And so this last poem I will read is called Call Me Mistress. Set your knees on concrete, lick my feet and prepare to give me everything that's not subversive. White picket fence and son-daughter dog combo, no. Make me a factory of tiny, writhing tyrants. Make me homely, androgynous, exotic. Restructure my prayers, give my light to God, tame the me who wants sex a la negresse. Be who someone keeps telling you to be. Make me your manic pixie, make me your insert fantasy. You are in control of this. This is your worst nightmare. But you're in luck, time's up. Jam the money between your teeth and leave. My name's not Mistress, it's Shayla, it's Sally, it's... Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shayla. Thank you, Sarah. Let's give them one more round of applause. Woo-hoo! Thank you. I could have listened to you all night. Can we do that again? So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thanks for joining us online on Facebook and Instagram and in person. We have one more reading this season that's going to be on April next month, almost this month, for Poetry Month, 13th. And we're welcoming Erin Baptiste, and she'll read alongside Michael A. de Armas. So please come out, support, and thank you so much. Have a beautiful, poetic, inspiring evening. Bye.